Hey, it's Susie from Girl Gone Green. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking all about meal prepping for baby number 3. So I didn't meal prep with baby number 1 or 2. I maybe made some kale chips and some like breakfast cookies, but that was it. But I went like all out for this pregnancy because I definitely knew it was going to be a little bit more like taxing going from 2 to 3, and obviously I just have more children and busier life. So I wanted to show you guys how I did it, and I stuck a little few videos in of me prepping day of, and then also after, just like how I stored food without plastic, but also didn't spend like an arm and a leg on all the glass stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe because there's gonna be a lot more goodness coming from this place. Okay, so let's get started. So first, before I even started, I just came up with probably around 8 different recipes that I wanted to make as far as, just dinner and lunch ideas. There was soups and casseroles and all that. I just wrote them down in my phone in my notes, and then I went and I found the recipes for them. I printed them off. So I had all my recipes printed out. It just made it super easy for the prep day. So that way, my sisters and my mom were coming and they just helped a ton. And then what I did too is I made sure I had all the ingredients, I had them all laid out on my counter, and it just made it go so much smoother because people weren't looking in my cupboards trying to find things. Everything was pretty much laid out. So what I did is I knew they were coming on Saturday, and on Friday I cooked all my meat. So I knew all the recipes that I had, what meat they needed, whether it was chicken or beef or whatever, and I cooked all of that just because it was really easy and I knew I wanted to have it prepped. So all we had to do on Saturday was just assemble everything. So whether it was Instant Pot or sauteing on the stove or baking the meat or whatever, roasting it, I just did that on Friday. So that was all done and out of the way, which was super nice. And then on Saturday, my 2 sisters came and my mom ended up coming too and washing a ton of dishes, which was super helpful. And we just made everything. We assembled it, whether we needed to saute it or, put the seasoning in, ingredients, whatever. It was super nice because once the meat was done, it wasn't we had to do that too. So I highly recommend you cook the meat the day before. That way you don't have to think about that too, and it doesn't take up more dishes to cook it. So we assembled on Saturday, and then on Sunday, basically what I did is I let everything cool off before I stored it. So like I said, I don't want to store anything in plastic personally because plastic leaches chemicals into your food and I don't want that. And so what I did is I made sure everything was really cool. My sisters actually one of my sisters brought a couple of her glass dishes too, so that way I could make food in those and then just give them back to her. So if you do have sisters or family you can borrow from, so you don't have to buy a bunch of new things. That's one big tip I have too. And so what I would do is in her glass dish, for instance, I would just put a thing of parchment paper underneath the casserole. So that way when it was done cooking and cooled, I just literally lifted it out of the dish and I was good to go. I didn't need to it was still intact and everything. And then I'll show you in parts of the video how I ended up storing that once it was all ready. So then on Sunday, I basically went through and I wrote down what I made and the date. So I knew when I was looking in the freezer what it was, and just labeled everything. If it needed to be wrapped up in aluminum foil then with the parchment paper, I would do that. So that was Sunday. So basically it's a 3-part process, I like to say, as far as meal prep and planning for a month. That's how it was for me. We cooked the meat Friday, Saturday we prepped it, and then Sunday I went through, labeled it, stored it, all that. And I'll show you guys kind of how I did that in the other part of the video. So stay tuned for that. I also wanted to mention that I have a freezer. It's a deep freezer from OfferUp. It's not huge by any means. It was $50. I got it 3 years ago. We store blueberries in there, we store meat, we store all kinds of stuff, but I love having it separate from my fridge and freezer. You can find one really cheap on OfferUp, so don't go buy a brand new one. Mine's been great, and it was only $50. One of the reasons too why I wanted to like do this whole meal prep and planning is because with my last 2 babies, I lived in Seattle where I had like really quick, healthy options if I wanted to like not cook that day after I had the baby. Whereas where I live now, there just isn't any great options. I mean, there's fast food and that's it. So I knew I needed to like prep food ahead of time if I really wanted to, just eat healthy and have good food around. And so that's why I really made sure that this time I like was going to prep a ton of awesome food, because I wanted to make sure that we were eating really good and like eating nutritious and nutrient dense food. And plus sometimes you just don't want to leave your house. Like with a brand new baby, you don't. And so it's so easy to like grab something from the freezer. I'm gonna have a download of all the recipes I use. I made muffins, I made cookies, we made pancakes, we made, like I said, casseroles and a ton of soups. I think soups are a great option too because they're super easy to make and then they're really easy to store as well. So I hope that helps. You can download the PDF just by clicking the link below. I'll have it right there for you guys. It'll just give you basically all the options I did as far as recipes, but then also options as far as not storing in plastic and how to get around that. So I hope this video was super helpful. I'm gonna share in the next couple videos just how I did it the day of we were cooking, kind of how that looked. And I really hope it helps give you guys a better idea of like how it all went down and just what it looks like to meal prep for a month's worth of really healthy, good, nutritious food, because I'm so looking forward to eating it once, we have this baby. So 37 weeks, like baby watch is on for sure. I wanted to give you guys an idea of what type of storage we're using for all the food. So I'm not doing plastic, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do instead. So for like soups, I'm going to use mason jars. These are the freezer safe 16-ounce wide mouth mason jars by Care. I think that's what it's called, right? They're freezer safe pint jars. I really like these because they are like more single serving and really easy for soups. I feel like if I put all the soup in here and then I defrosted it, I would have to eat all of it at once. So this is nice to like pre-portion it out. And then what I'm gonna use is, I don't typically have aluminum foil. I'm sure some of you are like, what? But I found this trick from Lily Nichols. What she does, she said, is you don't want your food to necessarily touch aluminum foil, but it's really good at keeping, the frost out and really helping it get from getting freezer burns. So what she'll do is she'll wrap it first in some parchment paper so that it's not touching the foil, and then she puts the foil over it. So for example, you could cook your casserole in here, and then once you're done with your casserole, pull it out, because you'll have parchment paper down, pull it out. I'll show you guys this too once I do it. And then you'll have the casserole, and then you would just put aluminum foil all over it. Another thing I'm using is stasher bags. So these are made with 100% food grade silicone. They have a lot of different sizes. You can basically just use whatever you have. I already have a ton of these, so it wasn't like I went out and bought a ton. I think the biggest tip is like just use what you have. Obviously, if you can invest in a couple things that you think you'll use later, great. Like this Anchor Hawking glass dish was only $10 at Walmart. So it's like pretty decent overall. I'm gonna use this again for sure, and I love that it has a lid. So whatever you're going to use, I would get, but I wouldn't go out and just spend a ton of money just on storage so you're not using plastic. I think the biggest thing with storing in plastic is as long as it's cool and you're not putting in like a steeping hot soup in a plastic bag, you know what I mean? Okay, meal prep is happening, you guys. This is what it looks like. I have some chicken that I already had cooked, the whole chicken, some bacon from yesterday, some ground beef, shredded chicken, got some mason jars for soup, and then just all of the ingredients to basically make it all. I soaked some black beans. I'm gonna make some kind of like a bean soup that my mom used to make. I'm modifying it a little bit to make it healthier. I'll share all the recipes, and then what I did is I printed out just all the recipes that we're gonna make, so that way my sisters and I can literally just have these to go by, and we'll each know like all the ingredients that we'll need for everything. It'll just make it way more seamless than having to look at my phone or something, which is what I normally would do. I'll take you guys over here. I am cooking some sausage. I already made some pancakes this morning to freeze as well. And then over in my Instant Pot, I have some roast that's cooking too that we're gonna add to a recipe. So a lot is happening. I'm just basically going through and I'm gonna show you how I'm storing things. So for instance, soups. I made a ton of soups and I did store some of them in mason jars, and I didn't label these because you can easily tell on the outside what's in them. This is butternut squash soup. You can tell that this is chicken and rice, or I can tell at least. And so I didn't label these. And then I have a freezer that I just put these in, like all of the chicken and rice soup together, all of the butternut squash soup. And then I also have broccoli soup as well. So that was really great as far as mason jars. If you have those laying around, those are great to have and store things in. And then you would just let these defrost in the fridge overnight, and then you could just easily, reheat them. And these are the freezer safe ones. You want to make sure you get the freezer safe ones if you are going to store in them. Otherwise they can crack and break in the freezer. So, and you always want to leave like about an inch from the top, just to make sure that they don't explode as well. Okay, and then if you don't have mason jars, so I got about, I think it's 12 for $10 from Walmart. So I think that's pretty good. But if you don't want to spend the money, or you just don't want to take up a ton of room in your freezer, what you can do is, I bought this from Amazon. It's called Super Cubes, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's just a silicone tray, and what I love about it is that it shows you what amount you're actually using. So this one says 1 cup and then half cup. So I filled it to the 1 cup line. And so then you just freeze the soup, and then I'm going to show you. So I just popped it out like this. They're super easy to get out. And this is also what I'm doing. So then I just basically wrap it up. And so no aluminum foil touches the food. I'm just wrapping it up in parchment paper first. And then as you can see, the foil just goes over it to protect it from freezer burn and all of that. So it's great. It saves you a ton of space in the freezer. Okay, now let's talk about breakfast burritos. So these are for my husband. So easy. So these are the cassava flour tortillas. I'm gonna link all the recipes that I used as well below for you guys. I made a ton more food than I'm actually showing you, but I just wanted to show you how I'm storing it. And then I wrap them in parchment paper again and aluminum foil. And here are the finished products. So they're all the same, so I didn't label them or anything, but they're all in the freezer like this, just lined up. For the casseroles, what I'm doing, or just like my main dishes. So I did buy a couple of these Pyrex or Anchor Hawking glass containers. Well, I shouldn't say I bought them. I bought one. I've already had one, but I did buy one. It was only $10 again from Walmart. So, and then we know we can just put this in the freezer. It's good to go, freezer safe, and then pull it out when we want to eat it, put it in the fridge, let it de-thaw, and then just reheat it in the oven. And then I wanted to show you, if you didn't want to buy like any Pyrex containers or, any more of these glass containers, what you could do instead is, to save a little bit of money, I learned this from Lily Nichols. She is amazing. She's a nutritionist. And one of the tricks she did is she used parchment paper like underneath her dishes. So like any casserole dish, she would put parchment paper on before she put the stuff in it, and then she would cook it. And then once it was done and cooled, she would just pull the parchment paper out, and then the casserole easily came out. And then she would just put it on top of some aluminum foil, and then wrap it, or put a piece of parchment paper on top and then wrap it over with aluminum foil. So you're not getting any freezer burn because the whole casserole is wrapped in foil, but it also is not touching the foil because you have parchment paper all around it, as you can see. And then I already had this one, but I put the pancakes in it. Make sure when you do pancakes, waffles, or anything like that, you layer them with parchment paper, just because I found that if you don't, they just stick together and that's not fun. So this will be ready to go. And then this is how I stored my granola. I just put it in some mason jars we already had. These ones are pretty large. I think they're the, what is that? Like 32 ounce ones. So they're pretty big. And then also if you want to use storage bags, like these Stasher silicone bags, these are an option too. I talked about, great for like muffins or things like that, where you can store granola.